Good evening, everyone. I am Mr. Randolph G. Catungal, presently teaching at Lagro High School, Quezon City, and the moderator for tonight's webinar. This event is an initiative of the ETCOR Educational Research Center under its advocacy project SAGIP MANANALIKSIK for everyone, which main aim is to help student researchers all over the country, especially during this time of pandemic. This will not be possible without the help of our very hardworking head research consultant of ETCOR, none other than Dr. Richard D. Sanchez. The agenda of the webinar is to discuss the weeks 4 to 5 of learning competencies under practical research to quantitative research. Before we begin our webinar, let me just remind everybody, first, turn off our microphones if it is not needed. Everyone may or may not open the camera except for the speaker. Be sure to indicate your name or institution to be identified as participant or attendee to this webinar. Questions may be typed in the chat box and wait to be answered or entertained after the presentation of the speaker. Our tonight's featured speaker completed the following degrees: Master of Arts in Guidance and Counseling at the University of the Assumption in 2012, Doctor of Philosophy major in Educational Management in 2003, Master of Arts in Education major in Educational Management in 1997, Bachelor of Secondary Education major in English in 1994, all completed at Guagua National Colleges. At present, she is a Master Teacher 1 at Betis High School in San Nicolas Betis, Guagua, Pampanga. Without so much ado, let us all welcome our featured speaker, none other than Dr. Bernadette L. Lejarde.
Hello everyone, good evening po.
Good evening po.
Ayan, so I'm very happy po nagkakasama tayo tonight. So to start po, I'll be sharing my screen. Okay. Can you see my presentation na po?
Ayan po, Doc. Nandyan na po.
Okay na po.
Okay, thank you po. So once again, good evening to everyone. So I would like to begin my talk with one of my favorite quotations which says, life is 10% what happens to you and 90% how you react to it. Okay. So applying this quotation, what will you do with the following situations? Yan. I know most of our participants are very familiar with the following scenario. Ayan. You suppose your research teacher told you to enhance your research problem, or your research teacher discussed some feedbacks regarding your performance rating, which is below your expectations. Another one, some of your group members are not doing their part in your research work. Okay, so based on the quotations, these are the 10%. Okay, so of what might happen on us or to you, probably you had experienced them already. So based dun sa quotation, sabi niya, These are just 5%, 10% rather. Okay. So the question is, how did you react? Yan. So yung reactions natin sa mga situations, these are 90%. Ito yung nanggagaling sa atin. So, um, how did you react? Yan. So if we are confronted with different situations in life, those are just 10%. Then yung 90% nanggagaling. So, let ang magandang gawin dito is we consider them as challenges. Okay? Challenge yourself instead of becoming frustrated. Okay, say for example, some of your members are not doing their part. So probably the best thing to do is to talk to them. Yan. Kesa yung ma-frustrate ka and then walang mangyayari sa work. Okay? Why? Kasi it is how we tolerate response, and when things aren't um, working the way we want them to, or when we feel we are surrounded by problems, unknowingly the solution to the problem might just be our attitude. Kasi many students are overwhelmed when asked to do research. This is due to the misconception that research is a job of a scientist or for students who wants to earn postgraduate degree. Okay, take note, research means searching for knowledge. Okay, that's why I would like to ask our participants, our senior high school students, na to say this with conviction, I am a researcher. Yeah. So you have to embrace it because I know you already contributed to new knowledge when you were in grade 11. You did research work. Okay. Research is creating new knowledge. According to Neil Armstrong, you become a researcher not only because of your academic standing. You are a researcher when your output contributes to knowledge or create new knowledge. Okay? Then research writing is an art. It is the extension of our academic life. Research and learning are things inseparable from one another. Learning formalizes um, what we know, and research challenges us. Okay, research challenges us on what we still need to know. That is why it is called research. Re means again, then search. So to search again, to seek out, search closely. Okay, so let us have first an activity. Yeah. Okay. Um, share your existing knowledge and experiences on the field of research. You may key in your answers on the chat box and we will ask our dear moderator, Sir Randolph, to read them. Okay. What important skills were developed in your previous research works? Yan. Okay, so you may key in your answers sa chat box. So para maging interactive ang ating webinar for tonight. Okay, what important skills were developed in your previous research works? Sir Randolph, meron po bang sumasagot?
Wala pa, Doc, but still they're still siguro typing in their responses sa chat
Ah,
box natin. Opo.
siguro nag-iisip pa sila.
Opo.
Okay? Yan. Then, what makes research an important part of your student life? Yan. Okay, so what makes research an important part of your student life? Okay, So you can key in your answers, your sharings, sa chat box natin. Okay. Then we will share, read. Okay. So research, no, has many practical and personal benefits. It helps you become good decision maker, good problem solver, critical and creative thinker. Okay. By definition, research is a process of steps used to collect and analyze information to increase our understanding of a topic or issue. It involves three important steps, okay, according to Creswell. One, pose a question. Then second, collect data to answer the question. And number three, present an answer to the question. Okay, so let us try to apply these three important steps, no? Okay, so can you think of a real life experience in which you applied these steps? Okay, so for example, how many hours do you spend in using the internet for your studies compared to the number of hours you spent in socialization? So when we say socialization, updating your FB status, yan, your IG, Instagram, or yung pagtutweet, or even you do TikTok. Ayan. So in this manner, you are already establishing for possible data gathering, since you will be determining which among the two you spent more hours in the utilization of the internet. Okay, so like what had been mentioned a while back, so in this webinar, you should be able to design the research that is used in daily life, writes a research title, describes background of research, states research questions, indicates scope and delimitation of the study, and presents written statements of the problem. So one might ask, why do we do research? Yeah, okay. So we do research for this. There might be different, no, reasons, but I'll be sharing three, which I read from my resource, uh, to capsulize the why, the answers to the question, why do we do research? Okay. First, research is an academic endeavor. Second, research allows continuous improvement, and research directly addresses problems and issues and explores possible solutions. Okay, so the number one, research is an academic endeavor. Research will always be a part of every discipline. So when we say discipline, we mean field of study. It enables you to research or to look again on the truthfulness of an existing knowledge, since the primary goal of research is to search for truth. So the results of researches are used as a springboard in conducting more researchers in planning new projects. Okay. Second, research allows continuous improvement. According to Creswell, he admits that continuous improvement will only be possible if there is a constant evaluation and re-evaluation of practices that have become part of a system. So exploring of practices are still fitting to the current status of the environment that concerns people that are involved while considering social environment. So how's that? So these previous researches must be reevaluated. Thus, it might contribute or an answer to the existing problem to be solved or for an improvement of a particular system. So the findings of that research will become now the backbone of the creation of new practices, say, for example, in the teaching and learning. Okay, so let's give an example. So in our current scenario, definitely teachers, students, and even parents now do some adjustments since we have new ways on how lessons are being delivered. So we have new learning modalities, example, online, modular, and even blended. Okay. Now, so number three, research directly addresses problems and issues and explores possible solutions. So, in other words, through research, we develop results that help to answer questions as we accumulate the results. So, we gain deeper understanding of the problems. So, going back to the early definition of research, it aims to contribute to new knowledge over some existing truths. This is possible because research allows us to be critical and inquisitive in the design of appropriate research method and on data gathering. Now that we are in the new mode of teaching and learning, madaming possible na data na pwedeng ma-explore and how this can be given possible solutions. So definitely research will help us a lot. Okay, so indeed, the hardest part is in research, the hardest part is getting started. Okay, but we have to remember you don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great. So we will not be able to find answers to our questions if we will not start. Diba sabi nga, it's a matter of attitude. Okay, so finding answers to our questions are made possible because of research. Yan. Hindi natin alam na ang mga kasagutan natin sa ating mga tanong around us if we will not explore them. Yan. Okay. Okay. So moving on, the research process from concept to problem. Research is systematic and cyclical. This means that uh, you need to follow a step-by-step process to successfully conduct a research study. Okay, so let us analyze this. For the past, say for example, for the past 3 years, the school's enrollment data in STEM reveal a significant decrease in the number of enrollees. Okay, so research always starts with a problem. The problem enables the researcher to draft the most appropriate research design, the most fitting method, and the most appropriate treatment for the collected data. Okay. So if I may borrow the words of Gadi, a research without a problem is like a body without a soul. It can be considered as a process that has no meaning at all. Okay? So a research with an observed and clear problem is like a ship with a confused captain who is capable of meeting his target destination. Okay. So according to Creswell, a researcher before engaging in the rigors of research design and research method must consider the following. One, the research topic. Second, the research problem. Third, the purpose. And last, the research questions. Okay, let's begin with the research topic. This is a broad subject matter. In some other definitions, this is the big idea. So the concept of this is the big idea, the concept of the study. This embraces everything, including the background of the problem. So the very first step in conducting a research is choosing and defining your topic. Remember that your chosen topic will directly affect the research process. So if you want to lessen your time in gathering information, you have to choose your topic wisely. It is true that selecting a topic may not be easy. It must be narrow and focused enough to be interesting, yet broad enough to adequate information. So these are some of the tips which I can share to you when deciding on a topic. So there are a few things that you will need to do, and this might be of help. Okay. One, brainstorm for ideas. Choose a topic that interests you. Okay. So are you interested in current events, social sciences, health, or medicine, or even, say, for example, literature or music? Okay. So all you have to do is try write down keywords or concept first. Then ask yourself, will this be useful to form a more focused research topic? And as much as possible, be aware of overused ideas. Okay. Second, choose a topic that will enable you to read and understand the literature. Okay. Then number three, make sure that the topic is manageable and that material is available. Okay. And number four, we can add that be flexible. Okay. It is common to modify. Okay. Kung minsan, naisip mo na yung isang, I have already the topic and then all of a sudden, nag-change mind ka dun sa topic through your readings, it's okay. So a researcher is flexible. Um, have enough patience. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So moving on. So before you will be able to come up with a research, okay, problem,
Bernadette,
okay,
ikaw na eh.
Doc, Det, paki-mute mo na lang yung kay ano, yung sa Hardin, siya yung nakikita kong nagsasalita.
okay po. Okay.
I mean paki-mute. Yan po yung HNHS Hardin. You can mute that po.
Okay na po, Doc Chad.
Yes po. Thank you po.
Okay. So um, before we as I was saying, before you'll be able to come up with a research problem, it will be helpful and necessary to define the research gap. Right? And so what is a research gap? So it can be defined as a research problem or missing information in a field which requires the conduct of a research study. So research gap, it is a topic or area for which missing or insufficient information limits the ability to reach a conclusion for a question. So in determining the research gap, okay, I'll show you later an illustration which will help us understand its significance before coming up with a research problem. Okay, so remember, a research gap is a question or a problem that has not been answered by any of the existing studies or research within your field. Sometimes a research gap exists when there is a concept or a new idea that hasn't been studied at all. Okay, so sometimes you'll find a research gap if all the existing research is outdated and in need of new or updated research. Okay, for example, the studies on internet use in 2001. So, what could have been the latest studies on internet use? Say, for example, for the past 3 years. So think year 2020 is about to end. So kumbaga, um, yung year, okay, that compared mo yung study ng internet use um, compared to 2001 at during our current time. Okay. Now, or perhaps a specific population has not been well studied. Okay. For example, there are plenty of studies about teenagers on video games, but not enough studies on toddlers and video games. Okay, so these are just few examples, but any research gap you find is an area where more studies and more research need to be conducted. So the question is, how do I find one? Okay? So how do you find one yung research gap? So it will take a lot of research and reading. You need to be very familiar with all the studies that have already been done and what those studies contributed to overall body of knowledge about that topic. So make a list of any questions you have about your topic and then do some research to see if those questions have already been answered satisfactorily. If they haven't, perhaps you've discovered a gap. Now, what you are seeing is, okay, is a figure which presents research gap process based on 5 elements. So including identifying the research gap, methods of identifying the research gap, visibility of research gap, selection of research gap, and expected outcomes. Now, remember, analysis of research gap leads to problem identification. Okay? So, a well-defined and a structured research problem is the heart of the research project. Say you are submitting your research proposal to your research teacher, he or she might ask you, what are you trying to find out or investigate? Therefore, you should be able to convince the panel of examiners by your research problem. So there is a need to build your research problem properly. Okay. Now, so the first one in the figure, in so doing, look for the research gap. So the first one there is identify the broad area. Okay, so to identify the research gap, the researcher needs to trim down his area of interest. For example, if your area of interest is sports, So you can further trim it down to a more specific like team sports. Yan. Ano ba yung may examples ng team sports? Say basketball, volleyball, okay, softball, okay. So which can act as a starting point to further analysis. So research gap identification requires a lot of reading and analyzing the material from literature which has been made easy with the advent of some online databases. Yan. Okay. So the second one, methods of identifying the research gap. So it is important to formulate questions that need further investigation and identify gaps in the literature that must be researched. First, you need to identify and select relevant information sources, which will mean looking at books in the library, okay? Looking for books in the library, catalogs, databases, and on in the internet, of course. So there is what you call systematic reviews. Okay, these are the most widely used methods for identifying research gap, whereby a researcher reviews and analyzing the literature over a period of time. So when we say systematic reviews, it's just like when we order sa online, ba? Nag-order ka ng product sa online. So ang unang gagawin mo, you will be looking into the reviews. Okay, kung maganda ba yung mga reviews ng mga nakabili na ng product na yon. Okay, so for example, a researcher can select a time period ng mga reviews mo. You can identify, say for example, um, you can define a certain coverage, a period of time when you do review. Say for example, 5 years ago or 10 years ago. So it depends certainly. You will be looking for, kasi you will be looking for theories, theoretical and practical perspectives. Okay. Now, the next one is feasibility of research gap. So feasibility of research gap depends upon the availability of both primary and secondary data. Sufficient literature available and statistical tools available. Okay, so the the problem identified somehow should process novelty. Ano ba yung novelty? So when we say novelty, the uniqueness. Yeah. So the uniqueness of the identified problem. Okay. So the next one is selection of research gap. It is based on the availability of literature, so researchers' own interest and the contribution to the concerned field. Now, for example, if the problem identified and the literature available in the database is limited, so you must try or rely on other sources like books. Yan. Okay? So selection of research gap is similar to the decision-making process whereby decision is taken based on various alternatives. Okay, and the last one is expected outcomes. So the researcher should identify the expected outcomes from his or her own research gap. So a researcher must have a prior understanding about the expected outcomes from his or her research, which may lead to the definite contribution towards the body of knowledge. So if the problem identified does not lead to any contribution to the body of knowledge, then one can revise, okay, the whole research gap process. Okay, so after the research gap was discovered or identified, you can now proceed to the formulation of the research excuse me, the research problem. Okay, so a research problem, it is often called the controversy, the main concern or the general prevailing issue that you want to address. It is a problem that someone would like to research. Okay, so a problem can be anything that a person um, finds unsatisfactory or settling, a difficulty of some sort, a state of affairs that needs uh, to be changed, anything that is not working as well as it might. Okay, so we should remember that a research problem actually is a statement about an area of concern, a condition to be improved, and a difficulty to be eliminated. Okay, so a research problem, it is a statement that describes what is to be tested during the entire research process, or the general problem or question that the research aims to answer. Okay, so we will go in detail with the research problem as we go along. Okay, so next one, purpose. Okay, purpose, this is the reason or significance for conducting the study. This fuels up the research itself. So this purpose cascades from the problem to the data gathering procedure. Most of the time, the purpose reflects the overall result of the study, whether you meet your aims or not. Okay. Next, of course, the research questions. Okay. So they set the sail of a study. They make the study specific. So research questions also help assure that your method makes your research measurable. Okay, they are generally included in the research problem. So research questions, they should dictate the type of research study or paradigm to be used or methodology. Will it be qualitative, quantitative, or even mixed method research? Okay, so research questions are researchable because they allow the researcher to collect data to answer them. Okay, let's give examples. Um, does client-centered therapy produce more satisfaction in clients than traditional therapy? Okay, so this is a quantitative, and you can do this experimental research. Okay, so another example is, how do parents feel towards the school counseling program? So this can be done quantitative and via survey. Okay, so these four important considerations can be related to previous examples. So applying, okay, applying now the four considerations. Okay, so for example, as regards to topic concern, so how do you understand the problem or the issue? Okay, so research problem, you might ask, what is the main problem of the school, for example? Then the purpose, what is the importance of the problem? Who will benefit from its solution? And for the research questions, what aspects of the school should you consider in dealing with the problem? Okay, so let's cite an example using the four areas mentioned by Creswell. Okay, so for example, the topic, okay, is about social awareness. Okay, so the research problem, students cannot relate important lessons in world history to the present day. So this hinders the development of the student's social awareness. Okay, the purpose, to bridge the gap between meaningful lessons of the past and the present day society with the aim to develop social awareness through reflective learning. Okay, and the research questions, uh, What are the valuable lessons in world history that relate to the present? Or what is the level of awareness among students in relation to present day issues and concerns? Okay. Now, when is a problem worth researching? Yan. So, the primary goals of research is, we mentioned a while back, is to contribute to new knowledge, right? So therefore, you should give it a lot of thought if a problem is really worth researching. So how? So here are some ways which can be of help on how to evaluate your problem. Okay. So number one, conduct research if your output will add something that is outside the scope of published studies. In the words of Creswell, something that will fill a gap or void in existing literature. Okay, for example, a researcher had previously conducted a study about modular learning. Excuse me, modular learning delivery among grade 8 students, but not among grade 11 and 12 of the same school. Then the problem is worth researching because it is outside the scope of the existing literature or the study may address the gaps. Okay. Second, if the problem will replicate the study but will be conducted at a different time in different setting and with a different group of respondents. So this affirms that the value of research increases when applied broadly to many people of different places, setting, and time. Okay. Number three, problems that will extend or develop published researches will reinforce knowledge. For example, if an existing research about identifying research styles of grade 10 students, so it can dig or go deeper by integrating a new variable, for example, like learning style and teaching style. So this the result can yield new findings in the area of concern. Okay. Then number four, if your research will enlighten and will move the life of less fortunate people of society, then your research will lead to equal opportunity among people. So conducting equal opportunity among people, let's remember the unheard, the silenced members of the society. For example, the least, the last, and the lost. Yun. Okay. Then the fifth one, the problem is worth researching if it will lead to evaluation of past practices and creation of new practices across disciplines. Okay, so by examining the problem, if the problem, so by examining the problem, if the evaluation could create an empirical decision whether to continue the practice or to provide means of improving or creating new uh, practices. Okay, so moving on. So guidelines in formulation of research questions. Okay. So in terms of formulating research questions, here are, it might help you, okay, when you formulate your research questions. Okay, it should clearly establish relation between the research questions and the problem or topic. Okay. Then another one, it should be based on related literature. So related literature review allows us to broaden our idea about a research topic. Okay. Then it should arouse curiosity, yung some sort of novelty. Yon. Okay. So another one, it should state research state research questions in such a way that they include all dependent and independent variables related to the topic and their study. Okay, so research questions should be preceded by one question expressing the main problem of the research. Okay, so as much as possible, avoid research questions answerable with yes or no, and use how questions only in a quantitative research. So remember the acronym SMART. Yeah, research questions should be SMART: specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time bound. Okay. So ways of stating your research questions. Okay. So one, state questions in the affirmative rather in a negative manner. Next, question should be neutrally worded uh, uh, to avoid biased responses. Right? Then ambiguous questions must be avoided. Use of words with multiple meanings may result in confused interpretations. Then avoid double negative questions which are difficult for respondents to answer. Okay, avoid double-barreled questions or two questions stated as one. Okay, now, so let's go now with the scope and the limitations of research. So the scope of uh, the research study underscores the boundaries of the research plan. So in describing the scope of the study, a researcher must provide information where the study will take place and what will be included or not in the study. So while the delimitation of the study may consist of the context, time, place, or location, position, and other indicators that help to place the study in a specific setting correctly. Okay, so the following may help construct the scope and the limitation of the study. So what is the topic of interest or the problem identified in the study? Why are you conducting the study? Who are the respondents of the study? Where are you conducting the study? When are you conducting study? And how are you conducting this study? Okay, so for my parting words, believe in yourself. Yeah, okay. We can do it. Thank you very much for listening. So these are my references.
Okay, for the participants, do you have any questions po to be answered by our featured. So we consider po your technical difficulty kung meron pong problem sa Wi-Fi signal connection. Baka hindi nyo po na-captured yung um, talk ni Dr. Lejarde.
Parang mabilis po tayo ngayon, no?
Opo.
It's only 7:19, yeah, for a 2-hour session. Baka po sa ating mga listeners, are there any parts of the discussion that you would like to be clarified more? Baka nabitin kayo, nakulangan kayo, or any clarification? Come on, anyway, maaga pa naman. Baka Doc, gusto nila ikaw ang magtanong.
Sige. Sige. Ayun. Sige, ako magtatanong. Okay. Yung kanina, ano yung palagay nila yun, di ba nakapag-research na sila?
Yes po.
So, ano yung um, best qualities yung that they can describe themselves, yung as a researcher, ano yung na-develop sa kanila nung sila ay nagre-research?
Yes po, yung sa paunang
Personally.
Opo, yung paunang ano niyo po yan, no, Doc, activity for the
Parang
topics
parang
proper.
sharing. Oo. Pag sa mga ganitong talk kasi you learn, then I also learn from, I consider yung nagla-learn din ako sa mga participants. Even noong hindi pa pandemic, yung talagang face-to-face seminars, I always consider that na nagla-learn din ako sa mga participants.
Yes po.
So kung nahihiya sila, pwede nilang i-chat. Doc chat.
Anyway po, hindi na rin po kayo nagto-talk directly. I mean, hindi na yung katulad kanina. Pwede nyo nang itanong directly dito sa atin anyway, tayo-tayo
Okay.
naman. Oo. Kesa sa mag-effort ka pang i-chat, if you can just be recognized naman by the moderator, at least.
Pero thank you very much for joining us tonight talaga.
Ano po yung tanong nyo kanina, Doc? Yung tanong nyo sa mga bata?
Yung in the course of their research.
Yes po.
Okay. Ano yung na-develop sa kanila?
Anong
personally?
Skills or anything
skills
that were developed in them because of research, no? Sige
and
po.
Yun.
Can anyone share po mula sa ating mga students?
Ako na lang, sir, mag-share ako as moderator.
Sige po,
Okay
sir.
lang po ba? Opo. Ako, sir, dati tamad ako magbasa ng mga aklat or researches, no? Pero nung nagtuturo na ako ng research, doon ko nakita na kailangan mo talaga magbasa. So walang katapusang pagbabasa ang kailangan para makapagturo ko at saka makagawa ka ng isang research na maayos. So yun po. Reading is very important in researching.
Okay. Very nice, sir. Any other po? Ano yung mga skills or mga anything na na-develop sa inyo because of research? This is PR2 subject, right? Practical research 2. So I presume that the participants have been in practical research 1, in qualitative research, when they were in grade 11. So research is not something new to these people.
Mayroon Doc nag-chat sa chat box si Ma'am Rochelle Magno. Can you ma'am share your insight about what have been developed to you sa research?
Ako?
Si Miss Rochelle po ba 'yan? Miss Rochelle Magno from San Sebastian College po, no?
Sige po.
Opo.
Yes po. Pwede po audio?
Sige po. Even the camera. Even the camera
ko po sa webinar. Sorry. Okay po. Okay na po ba?
Yes po. Sige po. Continue po.
Yes po. Nung junior high po kami, nag-research po kami. So, during those times po, natutunan ko po magkaroon ng time management. So, meron pong time na dapat sa research, then time po para, maglaro lang po, or something like that. Kumbaga, ihiwalay mo, ima-manage mo po siya para mas matapos niyo agad and mapag-usapan niyo mabuti. Yun lang po.
Anong strand mo, Miss Magno? Miss Magno, anong strand mo? You had
STEM po.
STEM. Yeah, kaya siguro you had your research in the junior high school, no? Usually sa mga special science class, particularly sa mga STEM students. That is nice. Doc, that although I'm not the speaker, I just would like to comment dun sa sinabi ng bata, napakahalaga talaga sa research ang natututunan mo yung time management. Kasi hindi ka talaga matatapos kapag wala ka noon. I agree with her na merong time para maglaro. Siyempre, bilang kahit sabihin nating mga teenagers na tong mga to, Diyos ko, kababata pa ng mga ito, nagre-research na sila. So, there is a season para maglaro, there is a season para tapusin ang trabaho kasi kung wala ka talagang time management, nako sa research hindi ka matatapos. Talagang wala kang mauumpisahan kapag yung time management ay wala sa iyo sa research. Thank you, Miss Magno.
Another po si Miss Pia Retuya. A respondent respond to a survey while a participant participate in an interview. We were told in research subject that participant na daw tawag both. So may I hear from the insight po of Miss Pia Retuya? You can unmute your microphone po and even open your camera.
Yes po, sir.
Opo.
Yun po.
Sige po,
Ah,
start po.
as far as I know po, ang tawag po natin dun sa mga sumasagot lang ng survey kasi data lang naman ang kukunin mo is respondent. While dun po sa qualitative, sa interview po, dahil ini-involve mo po yung sarili mo sa participant, nagpa-participate ka, so participant po ang tawag. But we were told in our research subject po na participant na daw po ang tawag sa dalawa po.
Pwede kong anuhin yun, Doc Francis and Doc Lejarde.
Sige po.
As far as I know po kasi 2 years na ako nagtuturo ng PR2 and I've been reading a lot of books. We use the term participant if the study is qualitative in nature and we use the word respondents if that is PR2 quantitative.
Yes po.
Oh,
That's
yun
what
po.
I know po eh. Kaya po
Yes po.
confirm po sana.
What
Sige po.
about
ganun po.
our speaker po? If we would like to our speaker to answer po, baka she has other insights.
Yun nga po. Pag participant siya, most likely talaga qualitative kasi you do the interview, ganon. And then yung sa quantitative, dahil data yan, so ang tawag sa kanila ay respondent.
Okay po.
Pero,
Thank you.
apo, pero based dun sa mga ibang, I don't know, no, Doc Chad, correct me.
Opo.
Kasi yung iba, I encountered po na sa isang school, they use, siyempre di ba yung style, may kanya-kanyang style sa research, though this is already thesis writing na, no? Sa mga universities, sa mga schools, they have their own styles, di ba, in writing. Iba-iba sila.
Which means parang you are implying na
Kung
depende
minsan
rin sa
merong-
institution kung ano yung tatawagin niyang participant or ano yung tatawagin niyang respondent, not necessarily na pag respondent, quanti, pag quali, participants. Is that what you mean po? Depende sa practice ng institution.
Yes, sir, kasi pinabasa ng isang kaibigan ko and then nung binasa ko yung research niya, I asked the question.
Opo.
Ganun daw kasi Imrad yata yung I don't know, no? I will not mention the pero nakita ko dun sa writing niya is though quantitative in nature, tas participant. So, yun. But basically, ang understanding ko, pag quantitative, usually
Respondent.
na respondent.
Tapos
Then
pag
yung
quali,
participants. Kasi they will participate nga po dun sa it is a focal group discussion.
Yes po.
Interview.
I will share po. Miss Pia, sang school po kayo? Miss Pia Retuya?
Wagwa National Colleges, sir.
Sa GNC po graduate si
graduate
yata
si
si ang
GNC.
ating speaker,
May alma
no?
mater.
Opo, alma mater ng ating
Hi, Ma'am
speaker.
Bernadette.
Hello,
Opo.
thank you, Ma'am Pia.
Ma'am Pia, allow me to share po. Ako naman po, ganito po ang paraan ng tinuturo ko sa mga estudyante ko at sa mga iba ring tinutulungan natin. Of course, kung meron pong ibang gustong mag-share sa atin, marami tayong mga expert na kasama dito. Nandito si Professor Lenis ng Polytechnic University sa Bataan. Kasama rin natin si Doc Adrian, ng San Sebastian College, yung Dean ng Graduate School. We also have Sir Mark Jameson, Ma'am Marie, si Ma'am Malu, at pasensya na po kung di ko makita yung iba. Ako po kasi ganito, unang-una po, sa mga webinars na ginagawa po natin dito sa ETCOR Educational Research Center, it is not the first time that we have encountered that question. I do not know, paboritong itanong, siguro hindi dahil sa baka hindi nasasagot ng maayos or parating ginagawang, sorry to use the term po, please don't get me wrong, parating ginagawang malaking issue yung ganoong or concern yung ganoong katawagan. Kasi para sa akin, mga technical matter lamang ito na, of course, ang mahalaga sa research yung laman niya, yung content. Kung paano yung mga tawag mo sa iba't ibang mga bagay, ay I'm not saying na hindi mahalaga. Ang sinasabi ko lang ay secondary. Siyempre sa research, alam naman po natin sa research, hindi lang naman ito labanan ng content sa research. Ang research ay technical writing. Pati yung tamang pananalita mo, pati yung tamang pagsulat mo, pati yung spacing mo. Minsan nga nagpagod ka. Ilang months mo ginawa, ibabalik sa'yo. Wala namang comments sa content, sa spacing lang, ganoon. Ikaw ang sama-sama ng loob mo. Magpiprint ka naman, problema lang niya yung footer, problema lang niya yung ganitong margin, ganoon. So, ang ibig ko lang pong sabihin dito, dear audience po, saka mga dear colleagues, mahalaga po ang content, pero syempre, mahalaga din ang mga technicalities na ganito. Kaya, siguro madalas natatanong sila. Ako po, ganito po yung pinapractice ko kapag nagtuturo ako sa mga estudyante ko. Sabi ko sa kanila, as a general rule, kapag quantitative research, respondents ang tawag natin. As a general rule, kapag qualitative research, ang tawag natin sa mga kausap natin, sa mga kinukuhanan natin ng datos ay participants. But let us remember that general rules have exception to the rule. In every rule, may parating mayroong exception. Halimbawa po, bago ko po sabihin yung mga exception to the rule, bakit ba tinawag silang general rule? General rule na pag-quanti, respondent, kasi ang trabaho mo ay mag-respond sa isang tanong. Hindi mo na kailangang mag-explain. Kapag tinanong ka binigyan ka ng isang pinasagot sa iyo ng isang item sa isang survey questionnaire, wala kang ibang isasagot doon kung hindi magre-respond ka lang kung 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 ba ang sagot mo. Kung strongly agree, or nandun ka sa gitna, or disagree or strongly disagree, ganun lang, mag-respond lang. Hindi ganun kalalim ang participation mo. Unlike in qualitative research, hindi ka lang taga-respond, hindi ka naka-box doon sa mga tanong. Di ba nga sa qualitative research, usually we're using open-ended questions, semi-structured. Ibig sabihin, maaaring meron kang pinaka-tanong, pero pwede namang mag-deviate yung ano doon. Pwedeng mag-deviate yung kausap mo doon. Kasi nga open-ended siya. At for as long as nandun pa rin siya sa main na usapan, nandun pa rin siya sa talagang usapan, mahirap naman yung talagang sobrang malayo na siya. Hindi naman pwede yung ganun. Kaya tinatawag natin silang participants kasi mas malalim ang relasyon nila sa ating mga researcher. 'Di ba nga tayo mga researcher sa qualitative research, we immerse ourselves with our participants. Ibinababad natin ang sarili natin sa kanila. Nakikiagapay tayo sa kanila, kasama nila tayong naglalakbay. Unlike sa quantitative research, kailangan ilayo mo ang sarili mo sa mga respondent mo para nga hindi masabing na manipulate mo yung datos or meron kang nagawa that influence the data. Ganun kasi sa quanti. Parang ikaw na researcher, malayo ka sa datos mo. Ganun dapat. Sa qualitative research naman, kabaligtaran. Ikaw ay kasamang naglalakbay nung taong pinag-aaralan mo. Minsan kasama ka kaya nga alam niyo po minsan meron tayong mga authors sa qualitative research na hindi lang participants ang ginagamit nila. Sometimes they use the term key informants, meaning to say, sa dinami-dami ng mga tao, sila lang ang panggagalingan ng information. Alam niyo ba na mayroon ding mga authors na instead of the word participant, ang tawag nila sa ini-interview nila ay co-researcher. Bakit co-researcher? Hindi naman siya researcher. Di ba ikaw ang researcher, siya yung ini-interview mo? Kaya siya tinawag na co-researcher kasi kasama mo siyang naglalakbay, kasama mo siyang gustong makadiscover din. Kung ano yung gusto mong madiscover, kasabay mo siyang gustong makadiscover ng bagay na yon. Kaya nga sabi ko sa inyo mga dear listeners, dear colleagues, as a general rule, ang tawag natin sa kanila ay participants, key informants, co-researchers sa qualitative research. As a general rule, sa quantitative research, we call them respondents because their role is to respond, to give a categorical answer nang hindi lumalayo, nang hindi open-ended. But that is the general rule. Meron po tayong exception to the rule. I'm gonna give you an example. Halimbawa po, kung pamilyar kayo sa mga guro ninyo, kami po dito mga colleagues, halos mga guro, meron po silang tinatawag na mga action research. Sa mga action research na ginagawa ng mga guro ninyo, sa ating mga guro, hindi naman respondent ang tawag natin sa mga halimbawa, gusto mong malaman, di ba sa action research, usually mga experimental research designs po yan. Meron tayong control group, meron tayong experimental or intervention group. Yung control group natin, siya yung constant. Kung ano yung ginagawa mo usual sa group na yon. Halimbawa, pag pumapasok ka sa klase, walang background music. Yun yung usual, di ba? That is the traditional. Papasok ka, magdi-discuss ka. So ngayon, gusto mong subukan yung isang intervention. Ang isang intervention, pag kayang pumasok ako sa classroom, nagdi-discuss ako na may background music, meron kaya siyang magbabago kaya yung performance ng mga bata? Gagaling kaya sila? Pero syempre hindi mo susubukan yun sa buong klase o kaya sa isang grupo lang. Meron kang group na dapat yung usual mong ginagawa ay yung walang background music, and then meron kang group na gumagamit ka ng background music para nga ma-test mo kung merong epekto yon. Kasi kung pareho sila, anong klaseng experiment yon? Pero yun nga po, balik po tayo dun sa katawagan ng respondent. Do you call yung mga bata na kasama doon sa action research na yon na respondents? No. Because they are not responding to a survey. They are participants in an action research, in an experiment na ginagawa mo. So yun po yung sinasabi ko sa inyo na as a general rule, sa Quanti, ang tawag natin ay respondent, pero hindi sa lahat ng oras. Merong mga research designs kung saan hindi applicable ang respondent. Hindi mo siya pwedeng ipilit kung hindi siya ang karapat dapat or appropriate na term. Sa qualitative research din, baka merong mga instances na as a general rule, participant ang tawag, pero baka merong mga instances na hindi dapat gano'n ang term na gagamitin mo. So, depende po siya sa research design. Yun lang po ang kaunting nalalaman ko based sa experience ko na na-share ko po sa inyo. Ma'am Ria, Miss Ria, okay po ba ang sagot natin na ano po kayo, na liwanagan po ba kayo or meron pang mga extrang katanungan po?
Yes po, sir. Completely enlightened po. Thank
Ay,
you so much.
maraming salamat po. And of course, syempre po yung sinare din ng ating speaker at Mr. Randolph.
Yes.
What about the other baka meron po sa iba nating mga research consultants na kasama dito na meron din silang ibang insights po that they would like to share about yung parating tinatanong na ano ba talaga ang pagkakaiba, kailan ginagamit ang participants or ang respondents. Mukhang wala po. Baka okay na rin po siguro sa kanila yon. Going back to you, Mr. Moderator.
Hello, sir. Thank you po for your insights. No, Miss Nishanta Cruz from CSSM also said that attention to detail po ang na-improve sa kanya. Then Miss Jamaica N.A. Capote said it improved my reading and writing skills po. Apa. So tama po yun, no? Hindi lang po reading skills na na-improve, pati writing skills natin. And also sa quantitative po, no, tama na nade-develop din ang ating mathematical or statistical skills. Apa.
Si Professor Lenis po ng Polytechnic University, Bataan Branch, sabi niya, hi Dr. Richard, yes tama po kayo. Although sa mga publication viewpoint, yung mga pinapublish na pong mga research, participants po ang usually ginagamit regardless sa kung ano man ang research design. Thank you for that input po, Professor Lenis. Maganda rin pala yung maaga po tayong natatapos, no? Marami tayong napagkukwentuhan.
Opo. Yes, Doc.
Any other
Ako,
po?
ako naman, Doc, ang what I like most about the speaker, yung presentation niya, yung pag-inject niya ng the process of research gap analysis. Kasi usually, nakakaligtaan din nating banggitin na may proseso sa paghahanap ng gap, no? And
Oh,
also,
diyan sa gap na yan, diyan madalas
sir,
nababaliw ang
mahirap
mga
po talaga
researcher,
yan.
no? Ano ba yung
Opo.
research gap na yan? Opo.
Opo. And also sa research gap po, tama po yun, no? Masyado exhaustive ang paghahanap natin o pag-review ng literature and studies. Opo. Kasi po di ba dati ang tradition, we just observe our surroundings, then on that moment, makahanap tayo ng problem or research topic. Pero hindi na ngayon yung proseso sa panahon ngayon. Kailangan talaga na research gap analysis.
Yes po.
Opo. Questions pa po, our dear attendees?
Doc Det, okay lang po ba if you could elaborate more, clarify more doon sa discussion niyo yung mga do's and don'ts kapag nag-aano po, gumagawa ng or nagde-develop ng mga research questions. I think dun sa PowerPoint po ninyo, halimbawa dun sa slide number 37, yung ways of stating research questions. Halimbawa po, state questions in the affirmative rather than in a negative manner. And then pangalawa po, mayroon kayong question should be neutrally worded to avoid biased responses. Baka po pwede nyong ma-elaborate yung mga example ninyo kasi parang medyo nabitin ako ng konti doon kanina nung dun sa part na iyon.
Okay. Okay. Yung pong sa, can you hear me po?
Yes po, ma'am. Yes po.
Yes po.
Okay, so yung state affirmative rather than in a negative manner. Kasi di po ba kung negative na kaagad yung research question mo, parang naging judgmental ka na, parang you already ended your research, parang not at all na kung negative na yung
Halimbawa, Doc, dito sa example mo, do you believe that smoking is a disgusting habit? What is wrong about that question po?
Parang di ba po kailangan wag as much as possible you should neutral worded siya kasi kung ano, for example, do you believe that smoking a disgusting habit, parang it's already answerable of a yes or a no, di ba? Parang this is to eliminate po the bias responses, yung ganun.
Parang
Para
somehow
there will be
unethical din siya, no, Doc, na
opo.
may mga negative or mga judgment ka na, nagtatanong ka pa lang, no? Parang ganun po yung...
Nagtatanong ka na, nilagyan mo na ng judgment na disgusting na yung smoking. Yun.
Actually po parang kahit sa politics merong mga ganyan yung mga iniiwasang tanong. Kung minsan 'di ba merong mga gumagawa ng mga survey yung mga different survey firms natin or survey mga like SWS, Pulse Asia at iba pang mga usually gumagawa ng mga ganitong mga studies. Kung minsan 'di ba may mga politikong nagre-react sa mga survey nila na sabi nila kaya ganoon ang result kasi ganoon ang tanong. Merong mali sa tanong. Halimbawa, kung yung tanong mo halimbawa, naniniwala ka ba na illegal ang ginawang pag-aresto halimbawa kay Senator Laila de Lima? Halimbawa, ganun po yung tanong. Yung iba nagre-react na hindi daw dapat ganoon ang pagkakatanong. Maaari sigurong itanong mo, ano ang masasabi mo sa pagkaka-aresto? Instead na nagbigay ka na ng idea doon sa mga sasagot na kumaga hindi naman niya naisip na illegal, kaya lang dahil sa tanong mo nag-input ka na ng maaaring makamanipulate doon sa possible answer. Ayun, si Ma'am Pia Retuya, sabi niya, minsan implied po sila the question is trying to persuade the participant. Tama po iyon. Kaya nga, napakahalaga po talaga ng mga tanong. Kung minsan merong mga, ang taong tawag nila sa sarili nila ay quote-unquote researcher. Pero hindi sila mga totoong mga researchers. Meron silang gustong patunayan. Kung minsan kung i-review mo yung study nila, yung objective nila, yung mga tanong nila, yun nga ay they are into something, sabi nga po. Instead na mga researcher na malinis. 'Di ba ang intention dapat ng researcher is to explore, to know something, not to prove or to manipulate. So yun po. Thank you so much po, Doc Bernadette. Sir Randolph, nandyan pa po kayo?
Yes po, nandito pa po ako, Doc.
Sige.
Opo. Yes, tama po yun, Doc. No? May mga bagay din talaga na kailangan hindi masyadong gawing big deal sa research. Okay, ang kailangan lang natin is yung alam natin yung proseso ng pag-research para alam natin anong dapat natin gawin. Opo. May questions pa po, our dear attendees?
Kasama po sa diniscuss ni Doc Det yung sa scope and limitation. Wala po bang magtatanong sa inyo anong kaibahan ng limitation sa delimitation? Kayong mga estudyante, madalas nalilito kayo dyan sa paggamit ng dalawa na yan. Kung minsan meron ka nababasa, scope and delimitation, tapos may scope and limitation. Ano ba talaga? May pagkakaiba ba talaga yung dalawa? Pero kung wala pong magtatanong, di po namin sasagutin. Anyone po na interested, baka they would like to, para po, yes po. Or baka po malinaw na sa inyo kung anong difference ng dalawa. I am interested to know, Ma'am Pia Retuya. O buti na lang po, nandito yung mga speaker natin at saka si Sir Randolph to answer. Ako po yung organizer lamang. Doc Det, Sir Randolph po, would you like to share your insights po? About
Okay, sir.
Si Doc Chad na daw.
About
si
what,
Sir
sir?
Randolph po, ready
Limitation
siya.
and ano po ba? And delimitation?
Oo,
Yun po
di
ba?
ba? Madalas yung
Oo, sir.
nalilito
Actually,
sila sa
Doc, tama po kayo dyan, no?
limitation tsaka
Oo,
delimitation.
sir. Kasi maraming schools na gumagamit iba-iba. Limitation, delimitation. Ano ba
pati
talaga
sa
dapat
format, di
gamitin?
ba?
Opo, sa format. So, as I look into the book, limitations are influences that the researcher cannot control. So, may mga variables na hindi natin kayang kontrolin. Kaya nga, di ba, may design na tinatawag na causal comparative or the exposed factor research. So, may mga variable doon na hindi natin kayang i-manipulate or kontrolin. Then for delimitation, these are choices made by the researcher which should be mentioned. So, ibig sabihin, alam na ni researcher ano yung dapat limitahan or yung boundary ng research
So
niya.
parang mas anticipated si delimitation.
Yes, sir.
Si delimitation,
Yes,
at the beginning of the study, alam mo na.
Oo,
Si
sir.
limitation,
Hindi pa.
maaaring, na-realize mo siya sa
Oo.
bandang dulo na
Huli,
ito
opo.
yung mga, kumbaga, ito yung mga hangganan ng research na hindi mo nagawa. While yung delimitation, ikaw mismo yung nag-set nun na hindi sila na boundary sila ng study.
Yes, sir. Kaya nga, sir, sa limitation, pwede mong pasukan siya ng data replication. No? Kung tingin mong there is something na hindi okay dun sa findings na ginawa ng previous or past researcher, pwede mo siya extend or magkaroon ng ibang area or scope.
Opo. Very nice sharing,
Opo.
Sir Randolph. What about po kaya yung mga kasama natin sa ETCOR? Baka they would like to share ano yung insights nila about this. Although yung pong sharing ni Sir Randolph, napakaganda po, napakalinaw din po, no? Sa practice po ng San Sebastian, Doc Adrian, nandyan po ba kayo? Sa practice po nyo sa San Sebastian Recoletos, sa mga papers na ginagawa ng mga students natin or students ninyo, I mean.
Hello
Po, Doc Adrian.
Hello?
Sa practice po ninyo, sa mga ginagawa ng mga graduate school students ninyo.
Okay. You caught me off guard. Sige. I
Ay,
would like to
pasensya
share
na.
doon sa scope, delimitation.
Opo.
It is an area na still uncovered. This can be the source of trying to identify the research gaps also of the study that was conducted. So ito po yung source namin. When a study has been conducted and it has its own scope and limitation, you can have this as part of another offshoot research. So doon yung makikita yung limitation ng study and you can conduct and extend that study forward. So yun po yung isang purpose sa amin. So
Opo.
the other way of looking at the scope and limitation. So we can push forward the boundaries of studying the findings of what have the respondents or the researchers rather have conducted. So ito po yung ginagawa po namin. So it can be a source of research gap, yung
Opo.
scope, limitation, and delimitation po namin. Other than yung findings of the study na nandoon sa recommendation, pwede ring pagpunan ng research gap. So if in the absence of research topic, so ito po yung pwede nating puntahan to be able to push forward the boundaries of research. Asan pa ba ang dapat na i-research po natin? So go forward sa limitation. Ano yung parang pagkukulang ng study na to? Can you do sa limitation nila? Can you push forward the boundaries na ginawa niya because of the limitation na ginawa ng kanyang study, or tingnan mo ang kanyang conclusions and recommendations. Can you pick up the study that was conducted? Because when we do research, we're trying to join in the conversation, the scholarly conversations of scholars. So when we do research kasi, we try to join in the debate or the discussions of a certain topic. So when we do research, we are pushing forward the boundaries of the knowledge. So yun po yung sharing ko.
Okay. Thank you po, Doc Adrian. Bagamat sabi mo off guard, no, pero napakaganda po ng sagot ni Doc Adrian, at gusto ko pong dugtungan din yon yung ano ba ang relationship ng gap at saka ng limitation. At kasi sabi ni Doc Adrian sa atin, di ba problema ng mga researchers yung tinatawag nilang research gap. Tinatanong ako ng teacher ko, tinatanong ako ng panel members ko, ano ba yung research gap? Kasi daw, kung walang research gap, bakit ka pa magre-research? Dapat merong gap. Kumbaga, meron pang hindi nagagawa yung mga ibang researchers. Kaya nandito ka ngayon, ikaw na present researcher, yung research gap, yung gap na hindi nila nagagawa, yung space na hindi pa nila napupunan, yun yung papasukin mo. Now, ano ang kinalaman noon doon sa limitation na tinutukoy based sa discussion ni Doc Adrian? Alamin mo yung limitation na yon, kasi di ba kaya nga yung mga limitation usually nasa dulo ng study yan. Kaya wala yan sa scope and limitation. Ideally yung ginagamit mo doon is scope and delimitation. Kasi ang limitation malalaman mo pa lang talaga yan sa dulo, di ba? Kaya nga dinidiscuss mo yan, sinasabi mo ano yung mga limitations ng isang study. Ang kagandahan kapag ikaw na researcher, honest ka, sinasabi mo with all humility na ginawa ko ang lahat, sinunod ko ang mga proseso, but these are the limitations of my study. Ang kagandahan nun, kapag honest ka na sinasabi mo lahat ng limitations ng study mo, yung mga susunod na researcher, madali nilang mahahanap ang research gap. Imbis na maghanap pa sila ng mga literature, ano ba yung kulang sa study niya, na ano ba yung nawawala na pwede ko pang pasukin, bakit kailangan mo pang magpakahirap when you can go directly doon sa sinasabi niya na these are the limitations of my study, therefore pwede kang mag-explore doon. Kaya nga napakaganda nung at least nabanggit sa atin ni Doc Adrian yung connection ng dalawa. So kung nahihirapan kang maghanap ng research gap, isa sa mga makakatulong sa iyo ay yung mismong limitation ng isang study. Kaya nga po tayong mga researchers, we have to admit kung ano yung mga hindi nagawa ng isang research na dapat nagawa niya. Dito po sa tanong sa chat box natin, can I have specific example of limitation ng isang study? Magbibigay po ako ng isang example, pero ano lang po, very extreme lang po. Siguro wala lang akong maisip at the moment po. Halimbawa, dapat sa study mo, pupunta ka ng Manila. But because of certain limitation mo, halimbawa na financial constraint ng mga estudyante, lalo na mga senior high school students pa lamang, humihingi pa lang ng baon kay kay mami nila, kay daddy nila. Pwede mong banggatin sa dulo 'yon na ang study mo sana mas mapapaganda kung meron kang mga respondents na makakausap na masi-survey mo sa Manila. But that is your limitation, that is financial constraint na hindi mo magagawa because of your certain situation. Para yung susunod na researcher noon, pag magko-conduct siya ng isang study na ang mga respondents niya mga tao sa Manila. Tapos sasabihan siya ng panel member niya, naku, yung study na ginawa mo, meron nang gumawa niyan, yung mga estudyante ko dati. Ay, hindi po, meron pa rin pong research gap. Yung estudyante niyo po dati hanggang Pampanga lang sila. Kami po ang mga respondents namin, pumunta po kami dito at inadmit po nila yon na limitation po nila yon. So sabi ko nga, yun po, I hope nasagot ko po yung magbigay ako ng isang specific example. Although, naisip ko lang po ngayon yon siguro for para lang po mas malinawan sa simpleng pamamaraan po. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you po, sir.
Thank you, Doc Sanchez, for your insight.
Salamat po.
How about our featured speaker, Doc Lejarde? Can you share your insight po sa amin about the limitation? Yung po relationship daw ng limitation to the scope according to Miss Pia.
Actually, sige po.
Hello po.
Sige po.
I'll just give an example dun sa limitation. No? Nung ginagawa ko po yung dicer ko, way back na although during that time ngayon ko lang naalala, during that time wala pa yung limitation na delimitation talaga siya. Okay. Ang target ko po noon is yung mga formal schooling ng mga indigenous natin. Okay, talagang ang gusto ko, yung pure talaga po, yung pupuntahan ko ng mga schools ay yung pure, kasi malapit po yan sa akin yung mga indigenous people po na yan, yung mga katutubo natin yan . Okay, so I do outreach po. Ngayon, ang gusto ko po yung naghahanap ako ng schools na talagang purely po sa kanila lang, na walang halo. Ngayon, in the course of my research po, pag talagang pinuntahan ko po Region 3, talagang liblib dahil yung hometown ko naman ay Zambales. Wala na po, yung mga schools na nakita ko talaga, ay mix na po sila. May halo ng mga yung galing sa lowland. And then hindi ko na dahil sa limitations nung, siyempre, you consider po na medyo maselan, yon. Maselan yung mga lugar na pinupuntahan ko. I should be bringing with me yung mga tribal chieftains po nila. Hindi na po ako nakaabot ng Aurora noon. Kasi masyado na pong delikado. So, kaya dun sa inexplain ko naman. Kaya yung mga delimit na lang siya sa mga schools sa regions na nagkikater sa ating mga indigenous, dun sa mga nirecommend nilang schools at sa mga napuntahan ko po. In as much as I would like to focus dun sa mga schools talaga intended for our katutubo.
Okay po. Tama po kayo dyan, Doc Lejarde. Ako naman po to add, may relationship po ang scope and limitation. Why? Kasi if the data is lacking, meaning to say, there are times that the data is said to be unreliable in nature. So may mga context or situation na mahirap nating abutin yung sinet nating scope, no? That is why we are limiting our study. And also, a lack of data or reliable data will likely require you to limit the scope of your analysis. So kaya nga po sinabi natin kanina na yung limitation ng study natin, ito yung mga hindi natin makontrol or these are actually unexpected na mag-occur. Sir, anticipated natin yung mga bagay na yan. Kaya
pero yung mga
alam
mo na, yung sa delimit, no po?
Po.
Siguro ang logic din ng paggamit ng delimitation ay huwag mong sakupin ng bagay na hindi mo kayang sakupin.
Yes.
Nagre-research ka, pag kayong mga bata, mga researcher, pasensya na, mga senior high school students, hindi naman kailangan na sobrang komplikado yung research ninyo. Hindi naman kailangan na sobrang bongga, sobrang enggrande ng study ninyo. Wala yan sa kung gaano ka komplikado ang study mo. Kahit kasimple lang siya, for as long as it is a point of inquiry, you would like to know something, you would like to inquire about something, kahit sabihin pa ng tao na napakasimple lang nito, for as long as you can justify na, kesa naman umisip ka ng pagka-komplikado. Kasi pag nagde-defense ka, pag proposal defense, di ba, pinopropose mo lang yung chapter 1 and 2, o kaya sa iba, chapters 1, 2, 3, yung introduction and method. Madaling sabihin na pupunta ka sa ganito, na gagawin mo to, kasi nasa proposal stage ka pa lang eh. Pero kapag nandun ka na sa realidad, yun yung pinakamalaking test mo. Kayong mga estudyante, kayong mga senior high school, kasalukuyan na I do not know kung nasa method section na kayo. Alam ko kasi first quarter nasa intro related literature ang discussion. Pagdating ng second quarter, pupunta sa method section plus yung other parts. Alam niyo, napakahalaga na, kaya nga napakahalaga talaga ng planning sa research, na hindi porke maganda sa pandinig yung isang research ay go ka na kaagad. Tingnan mo rin yung mga parameters. Sabi nga ni Doc Lejarde kanina, ginamit niya yung SMART. Ano po kasi yung ibig sabihin ng SMART, Doc Tet? Specific, measurable, ano po yung A?
Attainable po.
Attainable, and the others. Parang ang pinaka pinupunto lang po ni Doc Bernadette doon, kailangan alam mo yung tayong mga researcher, advance tayong mag-isip. Hindi porke naisipan mo siyang maganda, go ka na kaagad. Tingnan mo rin, may makukuha kaya akong datos. Baka gustong mong ganito yung gawin mo, kaya lang isipin mo, kasalukuyan may pandemic, di ba? Ma-access mo kaya yung mga datos mo. Makakapunta ka kaya sa ganitong lugar given na naka-lockdown ng ganitong lugar, medyo maselan sa lugar na yon. Hindi kaya magiging maselan yung mga pagkukuhanan mo ng datos? May access ka kaya? Makukuha mo kaya yung mga kailangan mong datos? Plus another part siguro ng scope and delimitation din, yung time frame. Bilang isang researcher, tingnan mo rin na ano ba siya, time bound ba siya? Baka naman ang gusto mong pag-aralan for one school year siya. Remember, ang PR2, ang PR1, ilang months lang sila? 5 months, di ba? Semester ang binibilang natin. So dapat pag nag-isip ka ng isang study, good for one semester na matatapos mo siya, na magagawa mo siya ng ganoon. Kaya nga nasa yan, yung maganda yung explanation kanina ng ating dear moderator Sir Randolph, na na-anticipate mo na yung sa delimitation. Ikaw mismo na researcher, alam mo na yon, at dapat planuhin mo na kaagad ano yung mga kaya at hindi mo lang kayang gawin. Lagyan mo na ng lagyan mo na ng boundary yon. Kesa naman sa gawin mo tapos sa bandang dulo pala hindi mo na sasabihin mo, sasabihin mo na, sir, ayaw po nilang pumahayag. Alam nyo ako, although napapahaba na yung sharing ko, mag-share lang ako dun meron akong isang experience sa isang grupo. Gusto nila ganito pagkarami-rami yung participants nila. Sir, gusto po namin, halimbawa 200. Pero alam nyo, nung realidad na, nung nagko-conduct na sila ng study, naging 50. Bakit 50? Ang dami na nilang dahilan. Sir, ang hirap po palang kumuha ng mga respondents. Ang aarte po ng iba. Yung pong iba gusto nila may kapalit, gusto nila bibigyan mo sila ng ganito. Yung pong iba kailangan mag-a-adjust ka sa kanila. So mag-a-adjust ka talaga sa kanila, sa schedule nila at sa kung ano pang mga measures ang ibibigay nila. Kaya nga po ang sinasabi ko, talagang pinagpaplanuhan ng research. Yung scope and delimitation na yan, wag niyong baliwalain ang part na yan. Napakahalaga po niyan kasi yan ang magbibigay ng direction sa iyo sa kung ano lang ang sakop, yung scope, yung kayang gawin ng research mo, at yun din ang mag-chop, mag-slice dun sa mga part na pwede mong gawin pero ayaw mong gawin kasi hindi mo kaya, naiisip mo na hindi kaya ng time, hindi kaya ng budget, etc. and so on. So yun po. So you have to give importance dyan sa part ng scope and delimitation na yan. Thank you po. Thank you, Sir Randolph.
Sir.
Thank you po. Meron naman si Miss Miss Pia po, no, nag-share ng insights niya. And may question pa rin po siya. For hard sciences po, like engineering, let us say producing a prototype, is it correct to include procedures in creating the prototype in scope and delimitation? Um, our featured speaker, you may answer po ito.
Usually sa mga capstone yan,
Opo.
no? Sa
Yes po,
research
sa
capstone.
sciences.
Opo.
Opo. Usually sa STEM po ito, no? Sa STEM.
Yes
Opo.
po, sir.
Pwede kayang tanungin muna natin si Ma'am Pia, sa kanila ba, sa ginagawa ba nila, meron ba siya?
Yes po. Bali na medyo na naging inconsistent po kasi yung paglalagay namin. Kasi niisip po namin, process po siya. So limitation ng process. Ito lang po yung, hanggang dito lang po yung gagawin ng mga researcher. Kaya inisip namin ilalagay siya sa scope and delimitation. Kaya lang po, meron po kaming nabasang ibang paper na nilalagay na lang po nila sa appendix. Kaya hindi ko po talaga alam kung saan po dapat siya ilalagay.
So, inconsistent po ang nangyayari sa school ninyo. Dati
Kasi
po may
po,
Opo, ang usual po ninyong ginagawa sa mga ano po no, usually sa mga nakikita ko yung mga prototype ng mga yan sa mga research capstone, mga study ng mga STEM students, no. Yun nga
exact
po. Opo. At tapos ngayon nakakita kayo na wala naman siya. Na nilagay lang sa appendices.
Appendix po, opo.
Opo.
Kasi sa ano naman po kasi sa mga meds, yung process po nandun po sa methods naman, kaya hindi ko rin po nasa methods naman po siya.
Opo. Pag ganyan po, means usually walang institutional format. Malaking problema po 'yan kapag ganyan kasi kung minsan ano ba yung dapat gawin? Ano ba yung mga parts ng isang research? Minsan nakakatawa isang institution tayo, magkakaiba yung pag pumunta ka kay teacher na ganyan, iba yung ginagawa niya. Pag napunta ka kay another teacher, iba na naman ang ginagawa niya. Sabi niyo nga po sa term niyo ay inconsistent. So siguro ang suggestion ko na lang diyan, Ma'am Ria, kung sino na lang ang kausap mong teacher, i-adjust mo sa kung sino yung kausap mong kung sino yung nag-check ng paper mo, yun ang sundin mo. Pero ideally sana ang pinakamagandang solusyon diyan, there must be an institutional format kung i-include ba siya dapat. Kasi kung ako tatanungin mo, dapat nandiyan siya eh. Ang scope and delimitation, parati siyang nagbibigay ng nagpapaliwanag sa kung ano ang sakop, kung ano yung mga dapat tapyasan, ano lang yung boundary ng mga boundaries ng isang study. Ngayon, kung nilalagay yan ng isang teacher sa school ninyo, samantalang yung isang professor naman ay hindi niya nilalagay, then there must be problem with the institutional format. Although hindi po kayo nag-iisa sa ganyang problema. Alam niyo, meron akong alam na isang malaking university, pangalanan natin para mas exciting. University X. So ito pong si University X, medyo malaking university siya. Meron siyang iba't ibang mga schools, di ba? School of Arts and Sciences, meron siyang School of Engineering, meron siyang School of Education, iba't ibang mga departamento. Alam niyo po kapag nandun ka sa school na yon, based lang sa mga naririnig-rinig ko tsaka minsan sa mga nire-review kong mga papers nila, para bang hindi mo ma-feel na nasa isang institution ka. Kasi one institution sila, but you cannot feel that because iba-iba yung ginagawa nila. Although I understand, syempre magkakaibang department, usually merong sariling yan. Pero dapat meron pa ring halimbawa, kapag nandun ka pag nakita mo yung paper na to, kung meron siyang pagkakakilanlan, na ito, paper to sa University X, alam ko yung ginagawa nila. Pero sa University X na yun, di mo mararamdaman yun kasi nga, iba-iba. So doon po nagkakaroon ng problema. Sa mga maliliit po na mga basic education po, sa mga basic education schools, nangyayari din po yan, lalo na po sa admittedly sa senior high school po. Syempre bago pa lang po tayo, no? Bago pa lang po ang senior high school at sino bang mag-aakala na as early as senior high school magkakaroon ng mga iba't ibang mga research subjects. Kaya yan po, nangyayari din po yung mga yan na kung minsan kung sino yung nag-handle, nagkakaiba. Kaya nga dapat talaga pag-usapan yung ganoon po.
Okay po, sir.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Sanchez, for your very good share of your insights. Meron pa po bang questions, our dear attendees? Meron pa po ba?
yung mga sharing po natin dito, mga dear senior high school students, kung ano po yung tinuturo sa mga schools ninyo, tandaan nyo po, ang ETCOR po ay augmentation lamang. Support lamang sa kung ano yung tinuturo ng mga teacher ninyo, no? Baka po bukas ay sabihin mo kay teacher mo, "Ma'am, sir, mali ka. Ganito yung natutunan namin sa ETCOR." Naku, susugurin po ang ETCOR, patay po ang ETCOR. Let us remember that ETCOR Educational Research Center, nandito po tayo. Meron po tayo mga pool of experts, nandito po yung mga kasama natin. Pero po tayo ay sumusuporta lamang sa naituturo ng mga nagtuturo talaga sa inyo. Ngayon kung makita nyo, mapansin nyo na merong conflicting doon sa tinuturo ng teacher ninyo plus doon sa natututunan ninyo from ETCOR, siguro po ang magandang approach dyan, if you can say in a positive way, tamang approach na, ma'am, baka pwede pong magtanong or ganito. Pwede naman siguro. Wala naman akong nakikita doon. Pwede ka namang magtanong. Pero kung ipinilit ng teacher mo na, hindi, saan mo ba natututunan yan? Huwag ka nang mag-a-attend sa ETCOR na yan. Ito yung gawin natin kasi ito yung, sundin mo yung teacher mo. At the end of the day, sino bang magbibigay ng grade mo? Hindi naman ang ETCOR. Ang guru mo pa rin. So you really have to, you can justify, you can say things in a nice way. Pero syempre, sila po ang mga guru ninyo. Ang ETCOR ay nandito para lang dagdagan ang kaalaman ninyo. So ganyan naman po talaga ang advocacy natin, ang matulungan kayo. Pero hindi namin advocacy na sapawan yung mga guro ninyo o kaya ay ipakitang mali ang tinuturo nila. So nandito po tayo para tumulong. Yes po, Sir
Thank you,
Randolph.
Dr. Sanchez. Yes po. Kung wala na pong questions, any announcement po coming from our head, Dr. Sanchez?
Ako po, ipagpatuloy nyo lang po ang pag-attend sa ating mga webinars under Project SAGIP MANANALIKSIK for Everyone. Ang kagandahan po ngayon, inaalaw na po namin ang lahat ng both grade 11 and grade 12 students, either PR2 ang gusto niyang attendan at saka or PR1. Kasi dati sa PR1 inaalaw lang sana namin grade 11 kasi sila yung magko-qualitative research. Kaya lang na-realize namin after nyo ng PR2 magi-inquiries kayo, di ba? Yung inquiries na ipinaghalong quantitative tsaka qualitative. So maganda rin na nare-refresh kayo sa, akala nyo nakatakas na kayo sa qualitative research. Hindi pa po. Kasi when you go to inquiry subject, yung III na tinatawag nila, inquiries, investigation, and immersion, you'll again be dealing with quantitative and qualitative research. Okay sana kung papapiliin lang kayo, what if yung school ninyo or teacher ninyo sabihin niya mag-mix method kayo. Pero ako, for senior high school, I see that as a very difficult task. Kami ngang mga nasa grad school na, isang method lang, hirap na. O tas papag-mix method mo yung mga estudyante. Pero syempre, depende po yan sa intention tsaka sa kakayahan halimbawa ng isang school. So we also would like to announce po yung paparating nating, ano pong week ng PR2 itong diniscuss nyo, Doc Det?
4 to 5 daw, Doc.
Weeks 4 to 5 lessons po.
Oh.
Opo. Sa weeks 6 to 7 lesson po sa November 19. Abangan. Maganda po na pag nag-attend ka ng ganito, attendan mo rin po yung mga susunod kasi para continuous po yung natututunan mo. Kasi ano naman yan, nag-uusap-usap naman kami, hindi yung parang discussion ni Dr. Bernadette. Tapos pagdating sa isang speaker, iba. Ano po yan, magkakasama po kami. So pinag-uusapan po namin ang discussion namin. Ang magiging speaker po natin sa November 19 si Dr. Adrian Lawrence, ano kasi ang apelyido ni Doc Lawrence? Carvajal. Siya po ang Dean ng Graduate School ng San Sebastian College, Recoletos sa Manila. Siya po ang magiging lecturer niyo noon. At ang kanyang moderator po ay si Dr. Mark Joseph Santos ng University sa Makati City po, Makati City, Philippines. So i-discuss po nila yung week 6 to 7 lessons. So abangan po natin yon para continuous lang po yung pagkatuto natin sa practical research 2. And then of course sa practical research 1, i-follow niyo lang po yung page natin at ETCOR Educational Research Center para makita niyo po yung mga different activities natin. Pati po yung mga PowerPoint presentations ng mga speaker natin, makikita niyo po araw-araw nag-share tayo doon. And then ito po, ina-upload po natin ito sa YouTube channel para kung konti man lang po ang nakapag-attend ngayon or syempre yung iba po nating mga kasama, wala silang mga internet connection, ganoon, merong mga problema, ay marami pa rin po ang matutulungan ng ETCOR. So because that is our main purpose po.
Yes.
That's
Thank
all
you,
po, Sir
Dr.
Randolph.
Sanchez, for some announcements. Po. May I ask din po, Dr. Sanchez, if there will be evaluation link to be sent in the
Ayo
chat
po,
box po?
dun sa
Opo.
mga email po na sinend namin sa inyo, magkakasama na po yon yung Zoom link to the meeting, yung evaluation po. If you would like to get e-certificate, you have to do the evaluation po. Yun po.
Ayan po. So for the last, before we dismiss po, no, can we have po our photo off to our speaker?
Sige po, paki-open po yung mga
Can
camera
we
ninyo.
open our
Habang
cameras
ino-open
po?
nila yung mga camera nila, Sir Randolph, syempre gusto ko pong pasalamatan ang ating suki na po ng ETCOR Educational Research Center. Isa sa mga ipinagmamalaking mananaliksik ng DepEd Pampanga, si Dr. Bernadette Lejarde. Palakpakan po natin siya. Yan po.
Thank you po.
Wala pong bayad yung mga yan, yung mga speaker po natin sa ETCOR, wala pong bayad, mga libre po yung mga yan. Part po ng advocacy talaga ng ETCOR na makatulong. At syempre po ang napakagaling at napakapogi nating webinar moderator ngayong araw, si Sir Randolph Catungal ng Quezon City. Palakpakan po natin si Sir Randolph. And of course, I would like to recognize po yung mga kasama natin sa ETCOR, sina Doc Loren, sina Ma'am Aileen, si Ma'am Marilu, sino pa ba hindi ko natatawag. Pasensya na po, di ko po nakikita yung iba. So maraming salamat po.
Ayan po.
Sir Randolph,
Ready
ikaw na
daw-
yung ikaw na yung magte-take ng shots. Ako na lang.
Kayo na, sir. Sorry.
Sige.
May problem po yung laptop.
Okay po, mag-print screen lang po ako. Tanggalin ko po itong sa chat kasi minsan pati yung sa chat box nasasama sa photo. Yan. Okay. So ready na po. Mag-print screen po ako. Okay, maraming salamat po. Okay na po.
Thank you po.
Thank you.
Thank you,
God bless us
attendees for
all.
attending our webinar po for tonight.
Thank you so much
God
po.
bless you po. Keep safe.
Doc Det, congratulations
Thank
po.
you.
Thank you.
Ma'am Pia, salamat
Thank
po.
you po.
Thank you,
Congrats,
sir.
Dr.
Yeah,
Lejarde.
regards. Thank
Thank you
you,
po, Ma'am
sir.
Bernadette.
Regards sa GNC.
Opo, na-miss ka na po ng GNC.
Thank you.